All right, guys, we are back here on the Chip Shot Football Podcast, and now it is time to get into our official mock draft on here. Apologies for no graphics or anything like that. I was having trouble with it before, and I just couldn't get it to work. So we're just going to go through it, just like this, face to face. And this year is a very interesting class because it feels very uncanny that, we're not talking about, like, quarterbacks and one or two two or three offensive linemen and things like that. It feels like it almost feels like we're not talking enough about the draft, if that makes sense, from my point of view at least, because for whatever reason, it is very heavily based on defense, and that, I guess, just doesn't attract too many people. Like last offseason where I was kind of starting this, everything I could read, be exposed to was Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, and all these sort of things, right? I know it was a very unique quarterback class, but still, this draft class just feels a little bit kind of offbeat for whatever reason. But with that now, we can start on the top 10 now, and we'll go through each section for the rest of today's show. So I included trades in my mock draft because I think it is part of it, teams trade, right? Why not include it in your mock draft? And with that being the case, right off the bat, at number one, I'm thinking that there is going to be a trade. I've read and I've watched, I believe, Todd McShay's podcast recently, and he said from all the sources that he was, listening to and talking to, having interactions with, that the Titans ideally would like to move from the number one overall pick. And I think it makes sense. I like that idea for them. I think that's a spot where in a weird quarterback class, and I know they have the first overall pick, right? They could select Cam Ward if they feel like he's the best player and be done with it, right? They need a quarterback probably, right? I don't think Will Levis has convinced many people at all. So some people might be thinking that this is a no-brainer, select the quarterback, or maybe a generational player, like they said, like Travis or Abdul Carter. But I just don't feel like one player is going to turn things around for the Titans. So I like the idea of trading back, accumulating a lot of draft capital, and continuing to build this thing. Because this season, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. So I feel like stocking up on it and then planning for the future where there's potentially better quarterbacks, better quarterback classes, that makes me more comfortable. So I think a trade here would be very realistic, and I think that a team that would need to come up and try to get a quarterback, I think, would be the New York Jets. So I made a trade happen. The Jets are moving up to number one. The Titans are moving back to number 7, and now the Jets have the first overall pick in this year's draft. Why? Because they need a quarterback. Sam Darnold's not the answer. Jordan Travis, the quarterback they selected last year, coming off of a very gnarly injury, is not the answer. I don't really like Justin Fields. I don't know. It's not really convincing me. So I think making a move like this, because they have a good roster. It's not like the Titans where they need a couple pieces, right? Like the Jets have great players at a lot of different spots. You think of Garrett Wilson, Quincy Williams, Sauce Gardner, all these guys that they have. Will McDonald came through last year. They got to get more out of Breece Hall, obviously, but they definitely have more to work with than the Titans. So making a move like this, going up and getting who I have here at number one, Cam Ward, by trading with the Tennessee Titans, I think would be something that would shake this entire draft to its core. And that's what I love seeing, these crazy moves. And what better way to have a last episode than having a crazy move like this, right? I definitely also, to defend this pick, I don't think it's as crazy as having like a couple running backs in the first round, because I think that's insane to have. I only have one running back going in the first round, and I've seen already a couple where they have like 2 or 3, and I think that's bananas. Not as crazy as the Jets trading up to number 1. So that's what I'm doing. The Jets trade up to number 1, draft Cam Ward, and they get their quarterback of the future. And this team is still very young, right? It's not like they're filled with 30-year-olds, really. A good amount of them are young. So I think growing together, embarking on this journey with Aaron Glenn, I think would be interesting to have here. So I have the Jets trading up and drafting Cam Ward at number 1. Then at number 2, the Browns don't move, don't do anything. And I think with them, one, I think Myles Garrett is going to leave. I think Myles Garrett is going to be playing elsewhere. I know they came out again today saying that they weren't going to trade him, but I think it's only a matter of time. If Myles Garrett is true to his word in wanting to go out and find an opportunity where he can go win, not just kind of settling for a better contract, I think Myles will be moving on. And what better opportunity are you ever going to have than this opportunity here, where if you do lose Myles Garrett, you can just draft Abdul Carter. And that's who I have them selecting at number 2. Abdul Carter could arguably go number 1. The Jets could trade up and get Abdul Carter if they wanted to, and I don't think anybody would be like flabbergasted or outraged that they did that, right? Because that's how good Abdul Carter is. And I don't think the Browns can find themselves in a better spot to getting a guy that's close, even remotely close to replacing a guy like Myles Garrett than Abdul Carter, right? And the quarterback situation, again, I wouldn't love Shedeur Sanders to go to Cleveland. I think that it doesn't really excite me. It doesn't really give me too much more hope that they're going to be any different. Whereas with Abdul Carter, if you bring him in, you at least kind of ease the blow of losing Myles Garrett, right? So I think that makes the most sense to me. I have Abdul Carter going number 2. Then at number 3, the New York Giants. Again, I could have gone Shedeur Sanders. Probably a lot of people would have. But I went with Travis Hunter, and I don't think that's a wrong thing to do either, because Travis could go number 1 easily. Having him drop any lower than number 3, I think, would be a mistake. So I think the Giants here take the best player in this draft class. And, again, the quarterback position is going to be something that people are going to be like, you're insane. Like, how can you not draft a quarterback? This team's just going to stink without one again. But I think if there was ever a player to kind of rectify and justify you not drafting a quarterback in this draft class, again, especially because the quarterbacks are pretty questionable, it would be a guy like Travis Hunter, right? He's made for the spotlight. He's made to play in New York and for everything in this organization to be around him. Then you have also Malik Neighbors, right? He's also a star. If there was anybody to justify not drafting a quarterback, it would be Travis, right? And I think that's fair. And getting him to electrify New York City along with Malik Neighbors, they can go sign someone. They could go and sign Sam Darnold if they really wanted to. They can go and sign Kirk Cousins or something like that. And they would be okay with Travis and Shedeur. Or not Shedeur. I mean, Travis and Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy. They're going to do okay. They're not going to be picking in the top 3. I have a good amount of confidence in that, right? And I think Travis would be a good pick here for them, selecting the best player available. And again, not just drafting a quarterback because, oh my God, we need a quarterback. Let's just draft whoever, right? I don't think it really makes too much sense. So I'm going to go with Travis Hunter. Then at number 4, we got New England, and it's either really a defensive player or an offensive lineman, I believe, here for New England. And I think the fact that Mike Vrabel has seen the benefits of playing with a guy like Vince Wilfork or coaching a guy like Jeffrey Simmons, I think me thinking that the Patriots are going to select Mason Graham here, I think makes the most sense because of that reason, right? I think his connection to seeing how important it is to have a guy like that in the middle of your defense makes the most sense to me. I know offensive line, you got to protect Drake May and things like that, but I think the way Vrabel's kind of wired and his preferences a little bit, seeing Mason Graham there, I think he wouldn't want to miss an opportunity like that, so I'm going to go with Mason Graham here at number 4. Then at number 5, we have another trade. I have 2 trades in the top 5. The Jacksonville Jaguars are at this pick, but I didn't like my options there. I didn't like them just because I think that they could get them later on. So with that, I think the Chicago Bears are going to trade up. And they're going to trade up, switch spots with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and select their best player on the board, which is Will Campbell, an offensive tackle, to go out and finally protect Caleb Williams. He was sacked the most times this year. Ben Johnson knows how valuable it is to have an offensive lineman or offensive line that you could definitely depend on Darnell Wright on the right side looks like a very solid option. Now you bring in Will Campbell. He could go over there to the left side, and now you have two cornerstone pieces at each tackle spot where you can definitely work with, and you could definitely have a lot of benefits from that, right? And just protecting Caleb, I think, would be a huge thing for them. And, you know, I mean, Will Campbell, you think of the teams in between, you know, the Jaguars could select Will Campbell, you know, that could be something they do. But with that, the Raiders could also do the same thing. The Panthers could arguably do the same thing. The Saints as well. I think the Bears see an opportunity here where they could trade back. Again, mainly because the Jaguars, I feel like they could get some more draft capital if they trade back and still get a player that's valuable to them. They see this opportunity, they call them, they make the trade, and they get Will Campbell here at number 5. Then at number 6, I think now finally we could start talking about Shedeur Sanders, and I have him landing with the Las Vegas Raiders. I think from what I've read, from what I've seen so far, and just, you know, tuned into, it feels like Shedeur is kind of separating himself from Cam a little bit. A lot of people aren't happy that he's not throwing at the combine, and if Cam does throw, I talked about it yesterday, it'll create even more of a gap. And I think that opens up the opportunity for Shedeur to drop a little bit here. And it would benefit nobody more than the Las Vegas Raiders, right? Because you have that connection with Tom Brady. They obviously need a quarterback, right? And I know they've been connected to Sam Darnold, and I almost didn't put Shedeur Sanders here for that reason. But at the end of the day, I feel like Las Vegas, the Raiders, there's really nothing you could write home about with the Raiders other than Max Crosby. Christian Wilkins had a bad year last year. He got hurt. You need a guy like Shedeur to come in, I believe, be the face of that organization and really be the face of Las Vegas, essentially. And I think he's the perfect person to do that. So I like that. I mean, I'm a fan of Shedeur. I just feel like the way things have gone right now, he is dropping for whatever reason. So I think he would drop to this spot. The Raiders would love it, and they would get their quarterback here at number 6. And then moving on here to the last couple picks at number 7, with that trade that we made before with the New York Jets, the Titans now have the opportunity to select Jalen Walker, the edge rusher from Georgia. And of course, it's not Abdul Carter, right? You do miss on the big fish per se, but you do get a lot of draft capital back, and you still get one of the better edge rushers in this draft, which is a need for them, obviously. So I think, to me, overall, big picture, that's a big win. Not only do you get one of the better guys, you get more options to draft even more bodies to this roster that needs as much talent as possible. So I think this worked out very well for the Titans. And then at number 8 here, we have the Carolina Panthers, and I have them drafting Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. I think this makes the most sense to me. They could have gone for a couple spots, you know, Mikael Williams, other guys like that. But I think to get a guy like McMillan, a clear number 1 type wide receiver, the way Bryce Young finished the year last year and how encouraging it was to see him not only get benched but come back from that and look a lot better in the second half of the year, go out and get him a bona fide number 1 guy to keep that progression going, that development growing, and now you've got 2 young, exciting players that can grow together in McMillan and Bryce Young. I would love to see them come together and, you know, form a great duo there. We see a lot of great duos. I think this has the opportunity to be the next best one. So I like McMillan here at number 8 to the Panthers. Then at number 9, I have the Saints drafting Mikael Williams. A lot of people are very high on him. And if it wasn't for an injury, a lot of people are saying that he could have gone like top 5 or something like that, right? But the Saints, very fortunate to be here at number 9 and have a guy like him sitting here, you know, with their new defensive coordinator, Brandon Staley, to get a cornerstone piece like this, to kind of learn from a guy like Cam Jordan, and also the fact that Chase Young is currently a free agent. I think you need a guy like this to be here for the long haul. So drafting Mikael Williams here, great value, one of the better edge rushers. It would be a home run hit, I believe, for the Saints on a very old defense. So bringing in some youth, I think, would also serve them well. And then lastly here, from the trade that we also had before with the Jaguars and the Chicago Bears, I got the Jaguars now selecting Will Johnson, the defensive back from Michigan. They need a lot of help in pass defense. They had the worst pass defense in the NFL last year, and they got good pass rushers. They do. They got Trayvon Walker, Allen Hines. They got Eric Armstead, obviously, and then on the other side, it's escaping my mind who they have on the other side. Well, they have Josh Allen Hines. They have him over there. So, they have good pass rushers. They are able to bring in a lot of heat to opposing quarterbacks. They just need the time to get there, and they haven't really had that on the back end. So having a guy like Will Johnson there gives you the opportunity to play man coverage, to kind of shut down somebody with his skill set. And I think not only do you get more draft capital, but you address a spot with one of the best guys at that position. So it makes sense to me, and that's the top 10 for right now. So with that being the case, we still got a lot more picks to get to. So we're going to go to a quick break right now, and when we return, we're going to go through the rest of the draft in the next two segments right after this.